One of the great things here on the show, we've often talking about our future careers, and we often speak about everything from finance to law, dentistry to real estate, but it's not often enough. We probably talk about interior design. Our next guest hails from the UK, but she's here teaching at the Canadian University of Dubai's School of Architecture and Interior Design. She's been here for many years, but to talk about both how the profession has evolved in recent years and how interior design can support the economy, Sophie Johnson is here in the studio. Sophie, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
We talk about interior design, and you're obviously teaching here, but how did your journey start moving into interior design?
Oh, this is often an accident, right? But design is a creative discipline. So from even if you start in an academic world of interior design or architecture, they're cross-disciplinary, so you can move across. So I actually started as a furniture designer.
Furniture designer?
And then moved into interior design, and then eventually moved into academia, teaching.
So more that you thought to yourself, I don't just want to do the couch, I want to do the walls and make it all match as well.
Small scale, that was what I was interested in. Architecture is always quite ambitious in the sense that most of the time it's on paper and never realised, whereas interior design, we're in spaces all the time. Furniture design, we can make it, we can see it, we can be in it at the same time. So small scale is more appealing.
I mean, you've got tremendous experience, and it's okay. I'll ask you to refrain from just how good the design here is in the studio. Our award-winning studios in here.
Yeah.
But looking at the profession, for people who are interior designs, I think that people probably underestimate just how much technology has evolved over recent years. How has the profession changed in recent times?
Definitely technology is one of the biggest, let's say, disruptors, if you like. Well, not just of interior design or design, but many walks of life. But for design in particular, technology has huge advances because it can speed up processes, which makes the process of design easier to manage.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily, if used as a tool, like drawing or researching or reading or looking at a book, then it's fantastic. Totally fantastic, and it should be used as a tool. It's not something you can avoid. So it's definitely changed interior design or design in general profoundly.
Because I think most people's perception, and I think it's wrong, when they think of interior designers, they think of someone who's maybe got too much money and they want to redesign their house.
Oh, we have to change that. We have to change that very quickly.
But, for a lot of businesses that are quite savvy and smart, they do understand certain colours have certain moods and shapes and designs and environments. If you're a business owner and you're looking to design an office, what are some of the tricks to help with mood and productivity?
Well, I have to say, I have to move beyond colours and decoration to an extent, because I think one of the most misunderstood conception of interior design that it is just colours and decoration, and it's definitely not. If you want to be a decorator, fantastic. If you want to be a designer, there's a difference. So you go to university to learn building codes, health and safety regulations, well-being, environmental AC obviously is one of the big things, interior comfort, which is a lot more than the colours. Which not to underestimate beauty, because but it's subjective. So what is good to you might not be good to me. So definitely interior design is different from decoration, and I think that's something that I've struggled with to highlight for my professional career, as it were, whether it's, particularly in academia.
So you're working with the Canadian University of Dubai School of Architecture and Interior Design. When students are finishing high school and they're thinking about taking on this as a career, what are some of the traits, or even for parents, what are some of the skills they could perhaps see in their kids that would make this seem like a suitable role? There's
definitely curiosity, dare I say, with design or any design discipline, particularly interior design, to be curious, to look around, to look up, which often means coming out of your phone, right. But to be able to look up and to look around. I think design is one of the subjects that you have to have a genuine interest in and passion, because it's not 9 to 5. So you're as we've sort of talked before, creativity is constantly evolving in someone's mind. They're constantly thinking. So we have people that come to CUD from school that have perhaps limited experience within design or the art-based subjects, but they all learn together at the same time. So they'll always be taught the basic skills they need all together, whether you're interior or architecture. It's not an isolated discipline. anything to do with design is all about collaboration. So being able to get on with people. These are all the soft skills that we don't necessarily talk about, but we learn through life. And they are as vitally as important as being able to be an artist.
Well, we've talked a lot about, I'm fortunate enough to host a lot of university seminars. And the one thing everyone talks about is the importance of soft skills going in.
100%.
And they talk about attitude and mindsets and all these sort of things. And when you're at uni, you think, oh, no, that's no problem when I get an HD. They'll be knocking on my door. And then you get and you're like, oh no, it's how well do you work with your teammates and cope with criticism and all those softer skills. Do you think it's sometimes harder, and I think I know the answer to this being a creative person myself, is it therefore a bit harder when people go into the workforce with the qualification, because creative people can tend to be a bit too passionate and take things a bit too personally rather than a boss that's objectively looking at things from a fiscal position?
I think that's definitely the case from a university perspective, because students own their work, right?
Yeah.
They've done it all themselves. So every stage of the process is theirs. Once you go into work, you're part of a team. You're a cog in the system that works. So whether you're just doing the detailing, whether you're doing the materials, whether you're doing the BOQ, any of these things, you belong to a team and you don't. So I think you learn quickly, once you're out there, and you learn to not take things so personally, because if you don't get your work done, the next person doesn't get their work done. So it's a totally different setup. And as much as we try, obviously within a university perspective, to put people in groups, to work collaboratively, to work with other disciplines, which is really important, because particularly interior design, it's not isolated with just designers. You are dealing with psychology, as you kind of touched about, the health and well-being of a space, all of these different industries and sectors that you have to work with. So you have to be able to work with other people.
You're part of the supply chain.
Yes, 100%.
UAE is always talking about sustainability. Have you got any examples of, particularly here in the UAE, about sustainable designs and some of the more standout projects?
Yeah, I think, within the UAE, there's some really good examples of people doing innovative things, something quite different. There's some great examples within D3. There's a space, let's say, called CoLab that deal with materials. And let's face it, architecture and interior design is all about materials. And so they are working with, or highlighting, shall I say, various different groups of people, mostly within the Middle East and within the Gulf, that are looking at not just sustainable materials, but circular economy, and trying to think more circular in terms of design rather than throw away. It's a big mindset that we have to change. But there are some really interesting things happening here.
You did touch on the circular economy. Interior design, what does it do to support that circular economy?
There's the obvious things, which are to do with furniture, materials. I mean, very simple things like design things that are modular so that they can be changed. But circular economy is much more of a process approach rather than a sustainable approach, which is about recycling, let's say, on the very obvious thing that we use, recycling and reusing. Circular economy is much more process based. So your design is a change of thought process, which allows a design to not be thrown away, to have a life, to continue to be used in different ways. So like I was saying, not carpet tiles, if you wanted to look at materials, modular furniture that can be changed. So we don't throw things out and start again, but we find its secondary life. It continues to live.
Yeah.
Which is very much earth-based, right? If you look at the earth, it survives on a kind of more circular idea, and it doesn't waste. So it's the step on from sustainable design.
Yeah, and I think that holistic principle is probably one of the easiest ways to teach that, when, I guess, if you're 18 and you want to throw everything away and just start again and redesign the planet.
Yeah, it's definitely something we have to get away from, this throwaway society. If you looked at design 30, 40 years ago, there was always this thing called built-in obsolescence. We build things into products for them to end so that we buy new ones. And we have to change that sort of cycle of thought, that we don't need to throw away. There's so much waste. How do you get cars off the road, not more cars on the road? Delivery drivers, why are they just delivering food if they could deliver your laundry at the same time, or various other things? So it's much more process-based than just let's use recycled materials. I
mean, it sounds easy, Sophie, but then when all my friends have a bigger iPhone than me, I've got to have the bigger iPhone.
Of course. You have to make it, I was going to say cool, but that makes me sound uncool straight away.
No, you've got to own it. I think you've got to own it, Sophie. every industry is being affected by artificial intelligence, and it seems as though the creative industries are often being affected the most first. What are the challenges, or how are you adapting? Because rather than the industry, obviously you're working more in education, and every university is more thinking we can't shut away AI. We've got to work out how we can incorporate, because in 10 years' time our graduates will be doing it on a daily basis. How is a creative field like interior design trying to work with AI platforms?
I think, we embrace AI, or let's say sort of technology in that way. I think personally, what's great about it is it disrupts the way we teach, because as you said, we now have to teach differently.
Yeah.
If you have AI and you're relying on someone to write an assignment and that's what you're looking at, you can't do that anymore, because who knows who's written the assignment. So you have to find another way to find the answers. So from my perspective as an academic, it's really interesting, because it has to make us think differently how we teach. From a student's perspective, AI is, again, really interesting. It needs to, it's not there yet. I think that's the reality of it. I think you've talked to anyone in university, they'll say you can see an AI image when it's generated. It has a specific look to it. You can understand something that's been written by AI because it has a certain language to it, which is not human, which is fine. To use as a tool, fantastic. To use as a tool, but to be able to use it as a tool, you have to be skilled in prompting. And prompting are the keywords that you put in to generate the image. To understand the prompting, you have to have a good grasp of language. So the words, the terms, the terminology.
The fundamentals are still required.
Yeah, you still require them. To use as a tool, fantastic. Idea generation, brilliant.
But that's the case in 2024, but this is the problem in 2034. I guess we really don't know.
You don't know, right? And I think that's why, in one way, we have to create students now that are future thinkers, that have to be able to adapt to these disruptors of how they're going to change the environment that they work in. And AI will be one of them, and nobody knows. We can keep talking about it. We keep talking as it moves and as it evolves, but we don't know the impact that it will be. Will it be as big as we think it will be? Will it not? Will it be in certain disciplines or areas? Could be.
I guess it probably presents a challenge, given for future students that do want to study interior design. In your experience with education, is there often pushback from parents that may not see this as perhaps being a quote-unquote, one of the more stable career choices, that you need to do something more traditional before going off into a creative field?
Not in that sense, but it's often pitched against architecture, as being the recognised
socially credible.
Yeah, sort of, the discipline. But I can say that there has to be a shift coming, because our numbers within interior design are very, very good at the moment. So the awareness of what interior design is definitely increased, particularly within the region, and the job opportunity, the employabilities are brilliant. Yeah,
well, congratulations, because I love people that teach their passion projects. I don't think we get enough of that in the workplace.
I'm very lucky. I have never had a day where I do not want to go to work.
And I think that's great. If you want to get in contact, it's the Canadian University of Dubai, their School of Architecture and Interior Design. And I think that for parents, there are job opportunities that are growing.
Definitely.
A lot of industries are shrinking, and I think this presents a great one for students. Sophie Johnson, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
And if you do want to get in contact, as we said, it's the Canadian University of Dubai, their School of Architecture and Interior